you for joining the 2023 State of SysAdmin report from Recast. This is the first time we've done a report like this, so we are, I know internally, very excited to share the results and the findings. We've been kind of holding on to them for the last few months. So happy to get them into the wild, and hopefully everyone on this call will find the results and the findings as interesting as I know we did internally. But before we get there, there's a few housekeeping things we need to cover first. So looking at your window, there's a bunch of screens you'll see now. On the right side, there's some downloadable content. Below that, there's a CTA if you want to talk to one of our reps to learn more about our products. Below that, you'll see there's a chat and a Q&A section. Always, you know, the chat section, say you're tuning in from. It's we always like to see the breadth and the reach of Recast. And then also the Q&A section, ask your questions there. It just makes it so much easier for us on the back end to keep track and make sure we can answer all the questions. And we do have Ted Hermanson on the back end answering the questions. He was kind of the lead data analyst for all of the questions and all the data coming in from the white paper. So if you have a specific question on how one of our questions was asked or where the data came from, throw it in the Q&A section and we'll do our best to answer it. After that, we do have 4 $100 Recast store swag giveaways. So I'll be pulling 4 names at random from the attendee list today. And then right before we conclude today's report or webinar, I'll be pulling the names and sharing those with you. So make sure you hold on until the end there. So quick agenda here. We'll do introductions. I'll introduce our 2 great presenters. They're going to kind of talk through, like, you know, what was the whole reason Recast did the State of SysAdmin report, what the white paper goals were, things like that. And then also they're going to talk through, like, what were some of the really cool key data findings that we found in this report. Q&A section at the end, but like I mentioned earlier, if you have a question, don't feel like you need to hold it tight to your heart. Just, you know, toss it out through the Q&A box. And then also, like I said, I'll do the giveaway at the very end. So here are 2 great presenters. We have Will and Matt. Will is our fearless leader and CEO. Matt is our content marketing manager. Matt was kind of the driving force behind this entire report, really. So Matt's going to kind of talk through some of the main questions, and Will's going to be there to kind of help give a little more context and real-life data there as well. So having said all of that, Matt, are you ready to rock and roll?
That I am.
Cool. I'm going to pass it over to you now.
Sounds good. So a little context on the State of System Administration white paper. Why did Recast set out to do this? What were our goals here? We intended to capture pretty broad insights into the lives of system administrators. You know, system admins are our core user for our products. We're interacting with tens of thousands of you daily and weekly through our products. And we hadn't seen white paper like this outside of one. There's one other out there, but we were excited to reach out to our audience ourselves across the globe. We hope to gain some pretty broad insights into, you know, satisfaction on the job, software usage, pain points, where are you at in terms of your on-prem versus hybrid versus cloud management, and a lot more, as you'll see as we go here. Going to the second bullet point here, we thought that we could add to this conversation because we are a company that is built by sysadmins for sysadmins. It is pretty common for some folks to create white papers through third parties. This was something we really wanted to do in-house. Our internal sysadmins here at Recast had input in the survey questions, in the data analysis, and in the final white paper presentation as well. We definitely were interacting with our sysadmins within the company to produce this final white paper. Additionally, final bullet point here, we at Recast are using this data to goal set and look forward into the future with our plans. And we trust that this data can be used by companies, sysadmins, IT managers as well for their future planning. Last thing before moving on, know that this is just a summary today in this presentation. The white paper itself is much more in depth, and you'll be receiving that via email shortly after this presentation. So give a look at the PDF. Demographics. We ended up surveying 500 individuals. The final data set, however, was 442. because we wanted this to be the state of system administration white paper, we ended up cutting data from those who were not system admins by title. So there were 58 other folks who were, IT directors or maybe involved in the security side of things specifically, but weren't directly system administrators. So our final data set was 442. And I want to give a thank you to those who completed this. I'm sure some of you listening right now completed the survey for us. On average, folks spent 22 minutes on this survey. That is a significant amount of your time, for which we're very grateful. Location. You can see here pretty strong participation in North America, which is expected as we are based out of North America. The rest of the percents here are pretty representative of our user base with right-click tools in particular.
Yeah, I think, Matt, just to add a little bit to this, sure. I think, just to echo some of Matt's other sentiments too, thanks for everybody who joined today, as well as everybody who took the survey. We knew it was a big time commitment, and then, thanks to Matt and the Recast team for pulling this all together. We're just going to kind of hit some of the highlights here, but, the survey itself goes into a lot of details in the report itself on job satisfaction, different types of software that's being used, OS, a lot of details. So we're not going to hit on everything, like we said. But yeah, it's the demographics and the geographics are very representative of, I think your peers. When you look at Recast's reach, the right-click tools product is used in 131 countries. So this infographic here really shows that representation. It also mirrors our customer base very closely as well. So I think it's just really proves out the engagement across the globe, and that we're all working towards similar goals and solving similar problems on a daily basis. So a lot of good detail here.
As for experience level, those who filled out the survey, we really, a really nice dispersion of experience here. Just shy of 50% of folks had 10 plus years of experience when you combine the 10 to 19 and 20 plus years of experience. So some significant experience represented in the survey data, but also a nice, nice input from folks who are in that 1 to 5 year category as well. So nice mix. Notice the bottom section there, that's the non-SysAdmins whose data was not in most of this survey here. Then number of endpoints. Largest segment by far is in that what we call medium here, but essentially 1 to 10,000 endpoints. Small segment, pretty significant at 21%. And then you can see combined 15 plus 6, 21% over 10,000 endpoints represented in this data. Digging into some of the data specifically now regarding the management of your environment. We asked some questions around your current endpoint management, whether it's on-prem, hybrid today, or cloud today. We asked questions about your current state. Dependent upon your current state, you then had different questions that followed tuned to your specific environment. So we collected separate data if you're on-prem or if you're currently hybrid, for instance. Know that in the final white paper that we'll be sending you, we have all the data around this and all the future projections that people shared with us. We're only sharing a little snippet of it here. To the current state. I want to point out the right side of the data set here, the grand total section. So this is the current state. 36% of folks who responded here are currently on-prem purely. 58% are co-managed or hybrid at this time. And 6% of respondents were pure cloud. And you can see we do break this out by tiers as well, endpoint tiers.
Yeah, I think Matt, this is a very interesting slide, I think, for all of us, just to see how strongly co-manage has been adopted. It's been a talk track for a while. And I think in the last 24 months, we've really seen strong adoption. So it is interesting to see it across all bands. It's just a very narrow range. I was a little surprised, I think, as most of you would be, to see, kind of co-managed and pure on-prem so high in the less than 500 endpoints. But it is interesting how tight the bands are, and how much it's settled into a co-managed world.
This next slide here.
Oh, Matt, this one's really interesting. I think this one is, I was talking to a team member here yesterday about this slide, and when you see the kind of dark blue or black lines, that's the percentage of people who expect to be fully cloud in the next 6 years. And I was surprised by those numbers. I think if we would have taken this poll 2 years ago, I think those numbers would have been 80 to 100%. So it's really interesting to see kind of the change in how people are either reevaluating a cloud first strategy, or that co-manage the way of the future. But it's a very interesting data point that we're going to continue doing this survey on an annual basis. So it'll be interesting to monitor this one especially. But yeah, really, I think there'll probably be some dialogue on this too on this call, but it's an interesting one for sure.
We also collected some data on how much time you're using at your organization to collect warranty data on your hardware, typically PCs. 248 of the respondents were able to answer this or estimate this for us. We did have the option to say, I don't know, if you didn't have a good educated guess here. So of the 248, actually, before we jump into the data, sorry, let's hear where you guys are at if you're able to answer this yourself right now. This is a poll question. How are you collecting warranty data at your organization right now? Give you a few more seconds to click your answer here. All right. 28% not currently collecting warranty data. 33% we use an app to collect it, and 39% we do it manually. Everybody knows the answer to that who's attending. The data we collected on the right side here, notice this is the number of respondents in hard numbers, and then we have the percentages just to the left of that under grand total. As you can see, there's a good number of folks who are finding ways to gain efficiencies here in that 20 hours or less, or 20 to 50 hours per year being used by their team. However, as you can see, there's also a significant number in that 100+ category, or even 150+ category per year, hours spent by their team collecting warranty data on their hardware.
Yeah, it's an interesting one to see, Matt. We hear this more often than not, that a lot of inventory management stuff is still in a spreadsheet, or it's managed by another team, or it's in a purchasing system, especially when it comes to warranty. So I don't think this is surprising to anybody on the call. It's one of those things that's just a holdout that there's not a lot of good options, and it's a struggle for everybody to keep organized.
We had a series of, or a whole security section within the survey and within the final white paper. We have some insights into zero trust in the organizations at this time. What's the current status of implementation? Admin rights. Then the last two bullet points here, we're not going to talk about during this webinar, but there is data in the final white paper on security threat perception. What are your perceptions of the greatest risks out there at this time? And then also breach history. There's some interesting breach shared by folks. Diving into the zero trust question. The question asks, does your organization have a zero trust initiative today? 29% in that upper right corner. No, we don't yet, but we're discussing it internally at this time. Going down the left side, 14%, I'm not sure what zero trust is. Reminder, there are many sysadmins who are working in different corners of their IT teams that may not be heavily involved in the security side of things, so they might not be aware. 12% haven't even started discussions at this time. And then if the bottom two sections are effectively a yes and or yes, we're beginning the process right now at 18% and 27%.
Yeah, I don't think this slide's probably very surprising to anybody. I think zero trust is, obviously a big topic, but it's also a big journey. I don't think, I think about most large organizations that we work with, and like getting to 100% zero trust place is probably, not a reality, but we're going to get certain pieces and parts to, continue lowering that attack footprint. And as we make decisions on how we implement something new or a new product we buy, those type of things will affect the zero trust strategy. But, it's a big undertaking. It's a, decade-long journey. So I don't think I'm super surprised to see some of the information in the slide, but, once again, another slide to see what it looks like next year too.
Mm-hmm. Admin rights management. How are you currently handling admin privileges at this time? Let's go down the left side here first. 5%, we don't manage it at all. 15% currently have a PAM solution in place at their organization. 17% weren't sure. The largest number we're using Laps at this time. And then no surprise to, I know, the Recast team and the conversations we have with organizations around the globe, 22% are still using local admin accounts with a generic password.
Yeah, this one, surprising yet not surprising. I think, as all of us in this space, know, it's no surprise or shock that if we remove admin rights, our environment is immediately, more secure. But it's a hard thing to do, especially, in an IT organization that's been built over decades with a large group of people. It's a very challenging thing to remove those and not be sure what's going to break. It inundates the help desk. People can't do their jobs right. You really don't know all the artifacts that it's going to affect. So, this is one of those things where it is low-hanging fruit. Getting to Laps is probably, one of the best first steps. But then, looking at some type of PAM solution, I think a lot of organizations are, evaluating, just based on the conversations we're having, are evaluating that. And, we see a lot of people moving to Laps, every year. But still, the numbers are surprisingly low for, how long we've kind of been talking about some of these things.
Next up, another poll question here. Please jump in. Are you satisfied with the way your admin rights are currently managed at your organization? Give a few more seconds. All right.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, 2/3, third split here, pretty much.
Yeah.
We had some questions around third-party patching. 60%, if you look at the bottom left side here, 60% of folks are currently not using a patching solution, or they weren't sure about what their organization was doing. Effectively, the 60% is folks who are patching in-house with a team, not actively patching, or they're not sure. The quote on the right side too, 74% of companies can't patch fast enough because they don't have enough staff.
Yeah, I think this one is, once again, not surprising probably to anybody in this call. This is the Wild West. When you look at the amount of applications that you guys are tasked with supporting on a daily basis, and the fact that there's no centralized place in the world that really does a good job of telling you what needs to be patched today, and providing you with that information on an as-needed basis. It's just so much care and feeding. It's impossible to stay on top of without some type of service being provided to you. So yeah, this one's just one of those ones where like it's an ongoing battle. There will never be enough time in the day for a team that's supporting a large organization to get on top of this stuff manually. So yeah, I think this one is one that everybody's constantly evaluating and looking at how they solve these problems. So, but yeah, if your organization is, if you feel like your organization's in a good place on this, I think you would be considered pretty rare. It's a mountain to climb for sure.
Another poll question here. When are you looking to implement a third-party patching solution? Soon, 6 months to a year, already have one in place, or not considering any solutions at the time?
We really appreciate you guys joining a webinar about a survey to take some survey questions too. It is, I think it's just helpful from a peer group perspective of like, showing everybody where, where kind of the global group is at. I think we've got, just even on this call alone, there's 154 participants. So, the data is statistically significant. It's pretty cool to see.
All right. Ooh. I didn't get the answer there. Let's try that one more time.
The poll results slide isn't in there, actually.
Okay, got it.
Not sure, but somebody who's quarterbacking this can fix that on the fly, but we'll get the results.
Not a problem. That one might not have actually been included in there. Quick overview of the entire white paper here. We have these are sections within the white paper. We have a section on demographics, job satisfaction, which was quite fascinating. I'll share one little tidbit here in a second about that, and the reasons for satisfaction or dissatisfaction. Some good insights, especially for managers, I think, there. We have operating systems and in what percentages within your environments. Again, current state of system management, on-prem, hybrid, cloud. We have a pretty significant section on software usage. What are you using? What are you not using? And then note that little indented bullet there. I found the most fascinating, the software that everybody would like to keep most, that they would like to add if they could, that they don't currently have in their environment, or the software they would cut first if they had to cut one piece out of their environment. Interesting data there, all within the white paper. And then, as already mentioned, we have a security section as well, which I overviewed previously. For now, though, just a few stats from the white paper that we haven't covered yet. 80% of folks rated their satisfaction at their job as a 4 or 5 out of 5 stars. Really great to see that, and some good insights into why folks are satisfied as well. As for asset management, 19% of folks are using spreadsheets is their top choice. The largest percentage of people weren't actively managing, actually, but those who were managing assets and keeping track of inventories were using spreadsheets primarily. Zero trust, 55% don't have a zero trust initiative moving at this time. Admin rights, which we covered already, 44% generic local admin account and password or don't manage or no. And breach history, 35% of folks had not handled a breach in the last decade. That's 35% of all respondents. Another poll question here. Select your IT team's top 3 initiatives in 2023. What's on your minds and plans right now? Strengthen security posture. Migrate from on-prem to hybrid or cloud. Move from a break-fix to a more proactive approach. Improve compliance numbers. Implement a hybrid endpoint management system. Move toward a zero trust approach to security. Or implementing bring your own device policy. You can select up to 3 here. Give you 5 to 10 seconds. All right. The results. Top result looks like strengthen security posture coming in number 1. Number 2, move from break fix to more proactive approach. Followed closely by the improving compliance numbers. And then migrating from on-prem to hybrid or cloud.
Yeah, I'd say that's the expected. Much like just on the last slide, it's, the outside of the bring your own device, which is super low. The rest of them, are pretty in line, which I think speaks to the general state of being a systems administrator, systems engineer. The priorities are immense, and it's hard to really say which one's the highest, just because you're tackling the fire of the day, as well as making sure that everybody gets to do their job. The edge is secure, so many different things. So it's I think really representative of what's going on in the world in your jobs day to day. I think so. Just to talk a little bit about like Recast and why we did the survey, what we got from the survey. The survey was very validating for us. Systems administration's in our DNA. It's where this came from. I mean, a lot of people here, you start at the help desk, you got a knack for it, you move into systems engineering. And that's what kind of where Recast came from. So I think more than anything, seeing the results of this survey really just validated where we're headed, the things that we've added to the portfolio, the decisions we're making on a daily basis. And the theme of this is just managing endpoints is hard. We hear this over and over again from customers, and we try to build products that fill these gaps, but like visibility is a challenge. It's hard to manage what you don't know about, and if you don't know about it, it can be a big hole in the environment. You got 10,000 devices, and you're missing 3%. It's a big number. So visibility across all inventory items. When you say inventory, it's not just physical; it's the virtual. It's what people have access to. It's what people are using on a day-to-day basis. It's privilege, all that stuff. So I mean, these are the common fall down points we're seeing, and like the Recast portfolio, are the thing, the items that we're continuing to build and integrate. Really try to get to the specific needs and solve for a lot of these problems. Managing privilege, like we talked about, it's one of those things we've all known for a very long time. We try to make it simple. When you look at a lot of privilege management stuff out there, it's trying to boil the ocean. But the reality is like if I could remove admin rights from a large portion of my users that really don't need them, but give them the ability to elevate easily and securely, and then remove those rights very quickly, I can solve a lot of problems in my organization and just lower that attack footprint. Patching is, the bane of existence for so many IT admins. When you look at security and how security software is built today, it's so on alerting and monitoring, and those those alerts and those reports are constantly coming to systems administrators. Oh, this needs to be patched. This needs to be patched. And the reality is, it's just like it's hard. It's hard to figure out what's out there, what needs to be done, how quickly can we get to it. So from a patching perspective, we built a lot of stuff that's focused on making sure that you have the visibility, and then you can provide the patches you need in the in an amount of time that matches the business SLA and things like that. And then affecting change. I think this is the one thing that Recast has always been very focused on. Is you can affect change in a lot of ways, but the reality is like we want to build the sidewalks where the path is most worn. When you see some of the earlier survey results of like where the workloads are, right? Like in a hybrid world, there's still a lot of stuff happening in Config Manager on a day-to-day basis, and we integrate very heavily there, and we'll continue to help bridge that gap between Config Manager and Intune, and then obviously in ServiceNow as well. It's we're not trying to change anybody's religion. These organizations and you and your team have selected these very robust, very big products, and we want to help you get more out of them. So we try to make sure that you can affect change in the places that you're living in day to day. So from a survey results perspective, it's just it's really interesting to see some of the things that we've chosen to focus on as a business, and some of the things that you guys are continuing to focus on too really align well. So yeah, and once again, thanks to everybody who put this together from the Recast side, and thanks to everybody for joining. It'll be interesting to continue doing this survey year over year and get more data. We'll probably do some third-party ones too. There's absolutely a bias here, right? When it comes to our database, it's heavily loaded with Recast customers and Recast community users. So more and more to come. But if you guys have any questions on any of it, please feel free to throw in the chat, and we'll address them here in a minute. But I think there's one more poll question, and then we'll move on to questions and giveaway winners.
Yeah, thanks for that, Will. So after that, if you're interested in learning any more about Recast's products, feel free to hit yes or no, or like I mentioned earlier, within the On24 window on the right side, there is a direct chat window you can click, and that'll link you out to speak with someone from the Recast team. So we'll give you a couple seconds to select A or B here. And then in the chat, if you want to mention or say, did any of these stats really surprise you? I know there was a few that talked about laps and how they were surprised the number was so low. But if there's any other, just data points like that would be interesting to know as well. So lastly, are there any final questions? Anything just burning you really want to get out there? We could have Ted answer from the back end. Here we go. We got one question. Will these results be available for us after the presentation? These would help direct things in my organization. Good question, Brian. And I think, yes, they will be, right? And having said that, like we've mentioned, after this webinar is done, there'll be a follow-up email that will have a recording to this webinar. It'll also be including the white paper itself, which is really where all the nuts and bolts live. So I think that's the key of this entire thing. And so lastly, if there's no other questions, we will do the giveaway winners. So Michael H., Scott C., Jesse S., and Kara W., congratulations. You are the 4 $100 Recast swag giveaway winners. Say that 10 times fast. And look for the email from us in the next day or two for a link to use that. And then lastly, if you want to know more about any of our products, get to know Recast if you're not a current customer or just kind of poke around, recastsoftware.com. We've got a bunch of information on there. You can view previous webinars. We've got short videos on how some of our key features work. There's a bunch of PDFs and one-pagers you can download. But, as always, thank you all for joining this webinar. I know, like I mentioned earlier, we were really excited to share the results. So hopefully you all find them as interesting as we did. Will, Matt, any final words before we wrap it up?
I just want to say thank you again, especially to all those who completed the survey.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, everybody, and those participated today as well.
Good, awesome. Well, thank you, everybody. And like I mentioned, just keep your eye on your inbox for the next couple of days, and we'll be sending out some pretty useful information for you. Thank you.
Thanks.